Good morning. It is Wednesday, March the 16th. I'm Shane Seeley, and this is the CBC Morning Report. We do apologize for the delayed start linked to a power outage in our area. But leading the morning report, more reaction to the budgetary proposals delivered by the Prime Minister Mia Motley. And the chairman of the Barbados Private Sector Association, Tricia Tanis, has described the budget as progressive in nature, but says it has fallen short on state-owned enterprises. She was contributing to a breakfast forum at the time organized by the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry and PricewaterhouseCoopers yesterday.
I preferred to have seen a real deep dive to stop what I call the bleed, stem the bleed. There are hundreds of millions of dollars in fiscal space sitting down under these state-owned enterprises. And the IMF in their last report has really made recommendations along with just a few very practical lines. One, that we need to have a financial health dashboard to monitor the state-owned enterprises. We have to strengthen governance. And I must say, I wasn't too impressed by the fact that we're about to bring board members onto the boards and then try to train them to be board directors. That would not happen in the private sector.
Meanwhile, the Chief Executive Officer of Goddard Enterprises Limited, Anthony Ali, says the budget gives to the vulnerable while helping to support society.
With respect to the freight and the clawback to the pre-pandemic levels, I think, again, great initiative. My only concern there is, will it be passed on? And again, that's the challenge. And I'm going to say it, when we look back to the NSRL, which came on and then was removed, you have to ask yourself, how much of that 10% really made it back onto the shelf? And the reality is, a very small percentage actually impacted the consumers.
The Barbados Manufacturers Association has also been reacting to the budget. In a media statement, the President, John Marshall, said that more needs to be done to reposition manufacturing in the Barbados economy to make it more sustainable.
Data shows that manufacturing within Barbados declined significantly over the last 30 years. And that time frame coincides with a period where successive governments operated under the mindset the only way to reduce the cost of living is to reduce the cost of finished product entering the island. I'd argue, in real terms, that mindset has not reduced the cost of living, and in fact, inflation in Barbados exceeds most industrial averages. And the same is true, I'm sure, for nearly every other country that took this approach. So what then is the point of perpetuating the mindset? Rather, the government, should turn their focus onto a much more sustainable path and look to develop local manufacturing.
Let's look at the local COVID-19 situation now. The number of COVID-19 cases, new cases that is, 53 males and 75 females for Monday, March 14th. That accounts for 128 new cases of COVID-19. They were identified out of 1,005 tests conducted by the Best dos Santos Public Health Laboratory. Of those positive cases, 30 youngsters were under the age of 18 and 98 were 18 years and older. There were 46 people in isolation facilities, while 1,008 people were in home isolation. As at March 14th, the number of deaths from the virus stood at 326. Over in Jamaica, the Hotel and Tourism Association there wants more done to address the shortage of hotel workers as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. It wants the government to intervene, as we hear from TVJ.
Jamaica's tourism sector is projected to fully recover by 2023. This after suffering a battering due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This was Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett at a media briefing on Friday.
Tourism's recovery in Jamaica has been stronger and better than any other country in the English-speaking Caribbean. But that recovery has not been without its pains. And one of the areas of pain has been the return of the human capital to the sector.
Hundreds of workers were out of a job during the pandemic. But even as the sector begins to rebound, there are still concerns about staffing.
If we look at the gap between the need now for workers and what will be for 2023. We have to plan for it. We have some time and we need to plan for it.
Recently, some 177 students graduated with associate degrees through the ministry's Hospitality and Tourism Management Program, which was launched in 2019.
So in the 4-year period, we would have brought 330 associate degree holders into the entry levels of employment in tourism.
This may help to alleviate some of the burden, but it's going to take much more. It's why the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association is making this appeal to the government.
The government should basically ask the cruise ships and other land-based people who are coming to check into our hotels and are soliciting and taking our best workers and are setting up offices within the tourism plans to themselves set up training institutions here or assist government with the training of our workers so that we can put out more people, so that as many people who leave, we have replacement right here in Jamaica for them.
Over the Bahamas, the former Minister of Health, Dr. Dwayne Sands, has criticized the newly relaxed COVID-19 restrictions there announced over the weekend. He believes the rules are biased and warned the world is yet to see an end to the COVID-19 pandemic. Our news reports.
Free National Movement Chairman Dr. Dwayne Sands says the recent relaxation of COVID-19 restrictions is clear discrimination against Bahamian businesses. His comments come after Health Minister Dr. Michael Darville announced Saturday that face masks are no longer mandatory while in a hotel lobby, corridor, or casino. The former Elizabeth MP questioned the rationale behind the decision.
I am at a loss to understand how the biology of the virus changes depending on whether you're in a Bahamian business or in a hotel or casino. And so it seems as if there's a belief that the biology of COVID changes depending on where you are.
According to the rules, masks are no longer mandatory at outdoor events once there are at least 3 feet of distance between attendees. Additionally, disabled individuals with specified medical conditions are not required to wear a mask once a medical certificate confirming that condition is provided. Private indoor social gatherings can also be held with up to 75% capacity. All attendees must be fully vaccinated or present a negative COVID-19 tests. Sands echoed similar sentiments shared by FNM leader Michael Pintard, which is that the official opposition has been shut out of COVID-19 briefings.
The Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, continues to be under heavy assault from Russian military forces, even as negotiations continue between the two sides. The latest attack saw an apartment falling victim to bombardment and displacing furious residents.
Just after 11 a.m. local time, people in Kyiv heard 2 loud bangs as Ukrainian defense systems shot down Russian missiles. Fragments of the missile landing captured on security camera, narrowly missing someone on their mid-morning walk. It followed an attack in the early hours of Monday, when what is thought to be an artillery shell hit this residential apartment in the north of the capital. Maxim carries what little he has left from the building.
I woke up. Actually, my mom woke me up. There was smoke and dust everywhere. We hid in the closet. We thought that we were being captured, that the Russians were getting in through the door.
Police take pictures of the rubble, others look on. Rescue efforts, as you can see, are still going on. The civil brigades here, the police, the fire service are still looking through the building, trying to see if there's anybody else trapped inside, trying to see if there are any more bodies inside. But the overwhelming sense is that this is a civilian building. There is nothing more that you can say about that. Look at it, it's a residential block, an apartment block. One resident had very strong words for the Russian president.
It is a city. He is just a jerk, a total jerk. I've got nothing else to say. You see, I've got no words to describe it.
There's more fighting on the front lines of Bucha and Irpin. between Russian and Ukrainian forces. But the war coming into Kyiv, although expected, is unnerving for many here. Ukrainians wonder whether this is a one-off or a sign of what's to come in the battle for the capital.
Let's go over to Wendy now to hear what's happening on the Wednesday edition of Morning Barbados. Over to you, Wendy.
Good morning to you, Shane, and good morning to our viewers. Coming up this morning, we'll be going back to the UWI to hear all about their postgraduate program in the Faculty of Medical Sciences with the emphasis on nursing. We will also be talking to Asha Aline of the Barbados Down Syndrome Association. We know Rock Your Socks is coming up, so we'll be having a word with her about the association and things generally for those with the condition Down syndrome. We'll also have something special for the guys, Shane. We'll be talking about testicular pain, so you guys should really tune in to find out if what you're feeling is a bit abnormal. So details to these and more on Morning Barbados.
Thank you so much, Wendy. Looking forward to seeing you at 6:30 in just a few minutes. But before we get there, we got some more news and sports coming your way here on the Morning Report. A new look, Barbados Investment and Development Corporation, BIDC, is to intensify its focus on creating an export culture here in Barbados. This from the Minister of Industry, Innovation, Science and Technology, Davidson Ishmael, in his maiden speech in the budget in the House of Assembly. He says the entity will undergo a complete makeover, even changing its name to Export Barbados, reflecting that new focus.
This name now signifies the focus of the organization, the focus of its members of its team, the focus of this ministry, and that is to drive exports, drive exports, drive exports, Mr. Deputy Speaker. In addition, the entity shall do that by facilitating businesses locally, of course, not only so that they can grow themselves to the point where their capacity is expanded for local production, but also, and most importantly, and even more importantly, I should say, that they are doing it with the perspective of being able to export their goods and services to other Caribbean nations and even beyond.
As thousands of fans get ready to descend on Kensington Oval later on today, the West Indies captain Craig Brathwaite has identified some key areas that the team must improve upon in the second test against England. After the first test of the series at the Sir Viv Richards Stadium in Antigua, a hard-fought draw it was. Both the Windies and England will be hoping to take a crucial series lead right here in Barbados. The Windies have named an unchanged side, while Saqib Mahmood will take his English hat and make his Test debut, replacing the injured Mark Wood in the England squad. Let's hear what the captain Craig Brathwaite now has to say.
You just gotta, deal with the processes. I think that's important. Also, Bonner led the way, with the batting, last time, and we got 350 in the first innings, so it's trying to repeat that, being consistent, with getting runs, and then obviously the bowling is, just being a little more disciplined in terms of the middle periods, probably a little tighter on the 3 runs and all, but I think creating that pressure will help, to get more wickets, in the middle order.
Live coverage will be on ESPN, on MCTV, and Radio 94.7, the best 24/7. It starts at 10 this morning. And that's it for this edition of the CBC Morning Report. I'm Shane Seeley. Up next, you'll have Wendy Burke with Morning Barbados.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
And good morning. Welcome to Morning Barbados on this Wednesday, when we're expecting the Windies to win. Now, first off, we will be dealing with the Faculty of Medical Sciences at the UWI campus of the University of the West Indies. They will be with us to talk about how the postgraduate program and its offerings are helping to bolster the healthcare systems in Barbados. And as I said, a warm welcome to you this morning. I'm Wendy Burke. Now I will introduce to you our guest, Dr. Heather Haywood. She is the lecturer in public health and head of the public health group. Dr. Wendy Seeley, she's the lecturer in nursing and coordinator of the MSc and Diploma nursing program. And there's also Susan Suku, who happens to be the postgraduate students representative for that faculty. Good morning to you, ladies.
Morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you, Andy.
Now, first off, what are the offerings within the postgrad program? Dr. Seeley.
Good morning again to everyone. So with respect to the nursing program, that's my area of responsibility. You can be assured that we offer a Master of Science in Nursing, which has specializations in education and administration. By way of background, this program started back in 2018, and it is designed to prepare nurses to be nursing educators and by extension, nursing administrators. To dig a little deeper, the idea is that we have the schools of nursing, say for example at the Barbados Community College, and we have to prepare tutors to be able to deliver and train nurses for the healthcare system. So this program is really designed to prepare tutors or nursing educators to develop the nurses who are going to be delivering care in our institutions. And by extension, the administration track prepares nurses for the advanced level of running the healthcare institution from a nursing perspective. That's it pretty much in a nutshell.
Okay.
And our most recent offering is the postgraduate diploma in pediatric nursing, which prepares a subspecialty in pediatrics to bolster and strengthen the area of pediatrics, which is so necessary in Barbados.
And these are all 4-year or 3-year programs?
So the master's program is part-time, a 2-year program, and if one wants to complete it, it may be completed in 1 year. But certainly we recognize that all the persons who are coming to these programs are nurses already. So, and will still want to work and be able to balance their work life. And therefore we recommend often that person should pursue it over the 2 years. With respect, however, to the postgraduate diploma in pediatric nursing, this is a 1-year full-time program and is actually currently supported by the Shaw Center for Pediatric Excellence. And we are working in collaboration with the Kids Global Center for Child Health.
Okay. If I could come now to you, Dr. Haywood, what is available in public health? What are the specialties that we're training people in?
Thank you so much, Wendy. So in public health, and if I could just step back a little bit to just speak about what public health is, to put it all into context. You know, public health speaks about the health of populations and also how people operate within a community. So it can be described as the art and the science of how we promote health, how we prolong life, and how we encourage persons to have as much of their well-being optimized using the collective efforts of society. So where we come in terms of training is that we offer the public health, the Masters in Public Health program, And this is available to persons who may have a medical background, a nursing background, but we've had very many persons come through and complete successfully with other fields of endeavor. So we've had persons who were journalists, we've had teachers, we've had persons who actually worked in media services, because I think if we go back to the definition where collectively society is promoting and improving health, we can see where health principles can be applied throughout. And similarly, the program is offered full-time over 1 year or part-time over 2 years. And we are also looking to strengthen this health system even more because we've partnered with one of our other faculties, the Cahill School of Business and Management, to actually produce a program now called the EMBA Healthcare Management, which is actually targeting people who work within the healthcare system to strengthen the ability of managers to apply public health principles, and conversely, persons who've just come through a pure health track to understand the management principles which are needed. So this is another way in which we're trying to bolster and support our health system so that we can be efficient and effective in the delivery of healthcare.
Okay, if I can come now to Ms. Suku, who happens to be in the program, what is your, why did you first decide, well, I want to do my postgrad in this particular area? What's your field of endeavor right now?
Well, right now I work in the radiology department at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital as a radiographer, and there is the need for public health service within the country in areas like program planning and so forth. So I saw the need to actually bolster what we have, and you know, we can compete with the world even though we are not as advantaged financially. And public health takes all the different parts and put it together so that you can see that it is a multifactorial thing that you have to address. And I really like it. It's interesting. I've learned so much in this 1 semester and a half.
Okay, so you're now starting out. But as a rep, how have you been perhaps pushing the program to some of your colleagues at QEH and maybe within some of the other public care health institutions or even private, because you may have friends there as well?
Yes, because it has helped me in terms of, well, right now I am acting as the senior radiographer, and it helps in making those decisions and planning for the department. So I have advertised it, yes, that it is the next step in moving forward in your own career.
Okay. Now, if I can get back to Dr. Seeley, you spoke about some partnerships with some international hospitals. How has that been going?
Oh, Wendy, that's been going very great, and thank you for that question. So since in 2020, we've been planning with the Shaw Center for Pediatric Excellence, and this postgraduate diploma in pediatric nursing is just one of the activities which will be rolled out in a bigger project through that particular facility. And certainly we are actually on the trailblazing end because of being that first project. We began our preparation back in 2020 and actually started this program in September 2021. And since then, we've been partnering with as I mentioned, the Sick Kids Global Center for Child Health, where they've been providing technical assistance with respect to nurse educators and equipment and support in so many other ways to make sure that this particular program is a success. Dr. Cave is the director of the Shaw Center for Pediatric Excellence and would have shared before some of the additional projects, but certainly the preparation of nurses has been very key as we prepare our other medical personnel in areas of specialty and developing those particular areas. It is equally important that we prepare our nurses in this area of pediatric nursing. The idea is to really to bolster and strengthen the outcomes of children, of the care of children, whether in the area of prevention or the area of cure. That relationship has been going very well.
What are your enrollment numbers like?
So for the pediatric program, we have 14 persons currently enrolled. Our maximum capacity
is 15, but at the moment we have 14, and I think that's quite good because we want to make sure that the numbers that we have are able to maximize the clinical support and the different resources that we have available, certainly. So we have quite a full class with respect to the postgraduate diploma in pediatric nursing. With respect to the master's program, we have approximately 9 persons enrolled in that program. We graduated 5 persons back in 2020, and we're looking to graduate another 3 this upcoming year.
Okay, back to you now, Dr. Harewood. What's your capacity in your program?
Well, with respect to the MPH program, we can ideally take up to 25 persons across the cohort, so depending on whether persons are full-time or part-time. So just to give a bit of the COVID context, unfortunately, we found that, in the past 2 years, because of all the economic constraints, so persons have had to defer. But that's the other thing we just want to say that, even if a person defers entry, they can resume their studies the following year. They don't have to reapply to the program. So we're just encouraging persons to think about applying. So 25 is a good number for us because we are cognizant of the fact that we really want to have some hands-on interactions with our students. So they're adult learners, and I know sometimes people might make assumptions, but I think having a good, student to teacher ratio is still very, very important, and especially given that some of our things are very skills driven. So our statistical programs or data analysis programs, to be precise, because we do both qualitative and quantitative analysis, requires us to be able to sit with the students, go through worksheets, ensure that they have the skills so that when they go back into their respective workplaces, then they can drive the demand for producing data, interpreting data, and actually informing policy, which is a very big, important role for public health. And if we go back to the genesis of our program, it was really developed in response to a need expressed by CARICOM leaders to have an enhancement of the human capacity, especially at the middle management level within public health. So those are the sorts of numbers that we aim for.
So you would say then that there was some level of imbalance in that middle management area within healthcare generally, and this is both to you and Dr. Seeley.
Yeah, there was that imbalance in the sense that, specific skills, and we need to also recognize that healthcare is a very dynamic place. The system is so dynamic. So you can be well trained today, and in another 5 years, you will find that skills can become a bit obsolete because there are increasing demands, increasing user expectations, and technological advances. So there's always a need to be constantly improving what we're doing. And this is why these programs came to help strengthen that middle management in particular.
Okay,
because,
and
these are the areas that drive the engine in public health. Over to you, Wendy.
Yes, Dr. Seeley.
Yes, certainly there's been a deficit and a gap in the area of middle management. Our nurses do a great job currently in their various capacities. They're very well prepared at the operational level, and as they transition to the supervisory level, it is important that they're given the tools and knowledge and skills to be able to apply it to that particular level. And I also want to add that's in the area of administration, but certainly in the area of education, we often say that our nursing educators are the gatekeepers of the profession because they're the ones who need to be prepared now to deliver on their level of expertise and share that with the new student nurses who are coming through, who are going to be the future nurses of tomorrow, and to be able to manage that dynamic, as Heather said, that dynamic system, healthcare system in which we operate.
Okay, and I'm going to send my final question to Susan Suku. In terms of encouraging others to come and get on board with the Faculty of Medical Sciences Master's programs, what would you tell them is the one greatest attraction from the program?
Well, the wealth of knowledge. It was so amazing to see how interconnected different services are, the sanitation services, the water services, the health services. Everything is interconnected with the socio-economic status of people and so on. It is an interesting, well, as Dr. Harewood said, it is an art as well as a science.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, ladies. We can see you have your work cut out there for you, but you're managing, and here's hoping that by the completion of this cycle, we will have some stronger managers within Barbados' healthcare system. I want to thank Dr. Heather Haywood, the lecturer in public health and head of the public health group, Dr. Wendy Seeley, lecturer in nursing and the coordinator of the MSc and Diploma in nursing, as well as Susan Suku, who happens to be the postgraduate studies representative of the faculty. Thanks to you, ladies, and do have a brilliant morning.
You too.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Morning Barbados will be back after the break, and we'll be talking Down syndrome.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
And welcome back to our viewers, and good morning to you who are now joining us. I want to extend a special good morning now to one of my old colleagues, Asha Aline. Good morning, Asha.
See you again.
Asha is now the president of the Barbados Down Syndrome Association, and she's along to tell us all about what the association does and some of the big plans it has coming up for the month of March. Now, Asha, what is the Barbados Down Syndrome Association?
Okay, the Barbados Down Syndrome Association is basically a group of parents, Barbadian parents, and we do have some international members as well, in fact, who have over the years, and we've grown over the years, we come together, we all have children with Down syndrome, and we also have members that have a family member, a brother with Down syndrome as well. And we come together and we're here for one another. We provide support. Our group is about 40 or so now, and we just stay together. We provide that support as a board. We also try to make sure that we fulfill the needs of our members, which are many, as you would imagine. And we are basically a support group, an advocacy group, and also, of course, we help to provide that roadmap or that pathway for our members as they're born, going straight through to adulthood.
Okay, now this year's celebrations have the theme Inclusion Means. What does it mean for all of us to understand that Down syndrome is not only something that you, Asha, as a parent of a Down syndrome child should care about, but I should as well?
Yes. So this theme this year is very timely and relevant in terms of the focus on inclusion and the fact that we really want to move towards an inclusive society. And this is not just in Barbados, of course, but internationally. So the theme was chosen this year in 2022 as Inclusion Means. So what does inclusion mean to us? And it's hashtag because of course it's the age of technology and social media. So we have hashtag Inclusion Means. So really it's encouraging people to just think on what inclusion means to them on a personal level. What does it mean to you when you hear inclusion? It might mean accepting a child with a special need within your community or at your school. It means for us a lot to do with policy, because we really want to see Barbados move towards having disability legislation, structures in place that would allow this same inclusion to happen, because without it, of course, we're left a bit into the air in terms of what we really qualify for. But inclusion then, and on a personal level, we want to see inclusion in education, inclusion in healthcare, inclusion within the communities. So inclusion really has not only that broader meaning, but we want to encourage people this year as they rock their socks. So just take a second to think about how they can include someone with special needs. What does inclusion mean to them? Maybe they can put hashtag inclusion means care, hashtag inclusion means access. So as they post their pictures this year, we want everyone to just ponder a bit on the meaning of inclusion to them on a personal level.
Okay, now there's also a program that the association is running called the Get Active with Down Syndrome program. Break it down for me.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so this program would have started last year with the help of and ably directed by Akeem Rudder of Include You Sports Academy. So we invited him to do a workshop for us last year with our parents. That was a Zoom because of course we're still inside, and it really went well. The parents enjoyed it. They got to ask a lot of questions. It was really refreshing to see Akeem and his passion for children with special needs, which is something that you don't find too often. And so we had our workshop. We spoke about the importance of exercise and the importance of staying healthy, especially during the pandemic, and getting moving and getting our members moving, because individuals with Down syndrome are more prone to putting on weight, to carrying excessive weight. Sometimes it's connected to the thyroid issues, but we know for sure that this is a predisposition. So we really wanted to get a chance to discuss how we keep our children active. When we got a little bit more relaxed with our protocols, we were able then this year to take the program from Zoom onto a face-to-face basis. So we started small, doing one-on-one sessions at Athlete Fit Gym. And I want to say thank you to Shonico, the director there, because he really worked along with us. And this is an example of corporate Barbados, or even a small business person working and giving to the association in terms of allowing us to use his gym for a minimal fee to get our program running. So we just want to say thanks to him, because we are there every Saturday with our members along with Akeem, and we come on and we get active. We do the exercises. The kids and adults come on and just get involved in a variety of activities.
And that's really wonderful to see, because it's not that often that both the parent and child gets to work together in these type of activities. It usually happens at school. And Akeem was on our program before, so we know how good he is generally. And I'm glad that he's working with you all, because as you all know, dealing with a Down syndrome child is not like the average child who will say, "Mommy, I'm gone, I'm going to the park." You have to be there to constantly give that guidance and so on to your little ones. Now, also the organization is not funded by government, so you do need to be able to help get those aids for some parents who may need them to help, with the children's development. So where can I go to donate?
Okay, so we are selling socks. Let's start with that. We're actually selling the socks this year for Rock Your Socks. It didn't happen over the last 2 years, but this year we have the socks available. And that's our way of encouraging the public to, when the day comes next week, Monday, to purchase the socks from us. And we'll be at Sky Mall on Saturday. We'll also have socks for sale at Fashion Connection in Bridgetown. And we are trying to secure a location in Lime Grove, but those socks are still in the works. But we are definitely going to be at Sky Mall on Saturday from 10 a.m. to around 6 p.m. or so. So members of the public, we're encouraging them to come out on Saturday at Sky Mall to support us. I know you'll see socks selling throughout probably this week, because we know the day is coming. But we are officially going to be at Sky Mall on Saturday from 10 a.m. And we are also going to be selling socks from Fashion Connection in town. So when you go to town and you're doing your rounds, we would love if you pick up your socks from Fashion Connection, because they're our official partner. And
Where do
we're
I
also
find them? For
Fashion
those of us who don't like
Connection.
Bridgetown.
Oh boy, Fashion Connection. I know they have a location on Tudor Street. I am going to provide further details, but I know they have one. There are two locations in town. But
Okay.
we'll definitely have our pop-up flyer coming around, and of course we have our bank account. We have our RBC account number, which is 128-2037. 128-2037. And that's our RBC account number.
Okay. Now, people would hear about rocking the socks and some would join in because it seems a worthy cause. But why do we really rock them?
Why do we rock our socks? We rock our socks for a variety of reasons. But rock your socks would have started because of we want it to be a conversation starter. You wear brightly colored socks, and of course, people ask you, why are you rocking your socks? Who wears brightly colored socks? So they actually started to encourage people to get the conversation going. Of course, attention getting. Also, the socks are claimed to look like chromosomes. I have some here. When you hang them next to each other, they hang like chromosomes. So they were chosen as a interesting way to get the conversation started. We also rock our socks on the 21st of March. The 21st of March is not a random date that was chosen, but it was chosen because March is the third month of the year, and that's the 3, and the 21st, which is 21. And as we know, Down syndrome happens when an individual has 3 copies of chromosome 21. So 321 is the date for Down syndrome, World Down Syndrome Day internationally every year, 3 and 21.
Okay, now we here at Morning Barbados would want you that when you rock your socks on the 21st, or if you do it before that, send us your picture. Let us see how you are supporting Down syndrome. I have been searching for mine, Asha, because I change them every year. But now knowing that you have them there, I will make sure to get them from you, for me, and for my boys, because we all support the cause, because it's important and close to our hearts and homes, as you know. So we make sure and support that cause. Now, anything special on the actual 21st that the association will do?
Well, on the actual day, but I myself am a teacher, so on that day I'm always at school, but I encourage my class, and of course the school that I'm at, we get involved in our activities. We have our sock activities. Maybe we are encouraging teachers on that day, of course, to just get the kids involved in some activities around the socks, and of course still the information sharing. And we decorate socks on that time. I've seen teachers decorating boards and what's not on that day. So as an association on the day, of course, our children are still out at their various schools. So this works because, of course, the parents help to speak to administrators who would then in turn encourage their students to just get involved in something. So we use it as a day that we have our members out and we have the support. We have babies in nurseries where the entire nursery where the baby with Down syndrome is at school would wear the socks. We have schools, of course, that get involved. So that day we have our members on the ground and involved in their normal activities on the day, but of course getting that support. And then, as you said earlier, we post to social media. So as you wear your socks, of course, hashtag Barbados Down Syndrome 246, Barbados Down Syndrome Association on Facebook, and just get your pictures out. And of course, remember to hashtag, take a second to just think about what inclusion means to you. So as you post your picture in your socks, hashtag inclusion means, and just take a second to think about how can you as an individual make any steps towards being more inclusive, because we can't just depend on the government, which we would love to see more being done there. But as we wait and as we agitate and as we advocate for change, we want on an individual level that while people are rocking their socks, it's more than just a fashion statement, but we are thinking about what can we do on a personal level to be inclusive.
And I'm glad to hear that, because if all of us get on board in the advocacy drive, then the things that you are looking for may come to fruition. a lot faster, because remember, many hands make light work. So we do need to have them fully included in our education system. Asha, it was fun to hear from you, and thanks for all the good work you've been doing with the association, and you keep it up, because those parents do need the support. Thanks once again for being here on Morning Barbados. And the bank account number once again for us?
Yes, and we have our bank account number again, RBC bank account 128-2037.
Right, so this is where you can go. It's going to be Rock Your Socks on Monday. Feel free to send us your pictures here at morningbarbados@cbc.bb. We'll post them on the show as well as on our Facebook page. This is not just to have a pretty sock, but this is to remember that there's a child who has this condition and needs our support, because we have to include them. They are a part of our society, not on the periphery. Thanks once again, Asha.
Thanks again, Wendy.
Morning Barbados will be back, and when we return, we'll be hearing some more news, and as well, we'll have some giveaways, so get close to your phone lines, 228-5562. I'll be back in a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
And we're back. And now it's time to hear what else is happening on news. We welcome Shane Seeley once again.
Yes, Randy, here's your headline news for this March the 16th. Progressive in nature. That's how the chairman of the Barbados Private Sector Association, Tricia Tannis, is describing Monday's budget. However, she says it has fallen short on state-owned enterprises. Mrs. Tannis was contributing to the breakfast forum organized by the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry and PricewaterhouseCoopers yesterday. Here's what she had to say.
I prefer to have seen a real deep dive to stop what I call the bleed, stem the bleed. There are hundreds of millions of dollars in fiscal space sitting down under these state-owned enterprises. And the IMF, in their last report, has really made recommendations along with just a few very practical lines. One, that we need to have a financial health dashboard to monitor the state-owned enterprises. We have to strengthen governance. And I must say, I wasn't too impressed by the fact that we're about to bring board members onto the boards and then try to train them to be board directors. That would not happen in the private sector.
And giving his take on the situation, the Chief Executive Officer of Goddard Enterprises Limited, Anthony Ali, says the budget gives to the vulnerable while helping to support society.
With respect to the freight and the clawback to the pre-pandemic levels, I think, again, great initiative. My only concern there is, will it be passed on? And again, that's the challenge. And when I'm going to say it, when we look back to the NSRL, which came on and then was removed, you have to ask yourself, how much of that 10% really made it back onto the shelf? And the reality is, a very small percentage actually impacted the consumers.
In other news this morning, some residents in St. Lucie are being urged to prepare for intermittent water outages over the next 3 to 4 weeks. It comes as the Barbados Water Authority has started major work on the Allendale well and pumping station, and once complete, this will significantly improve supply coming from the facility. The Barbados Water Authority Director of Engineering, Charles Leslie, has been giving an update to the Morning Report.
As the works are being conducted, we will have periodic outages because, as you would appreciate, the divers have to go down, the workmen have to go down into the bottom of the well, and when they're down there, we can't keep the pumps running. The outages are expected to be between like 8 on mornings, from 8 until like 2 in the afternoon, and then the divers will come up. We will let the well rest a bit so that if there's any fine sediment or anything like that, that can be arrested. And then we will start back pumping in the evening, and we will pump right through the night until the next morning again. We'll be augmenting the system during the off period of this well with another well that we have in St. Peter, along with the tankers, community tanks, and personal tanks. All of those measures that we put in place for the operations that we're going to be doing here at Allendale.
And you'll hear more about the cleaning work at the Allendale well and pumping station on tonight's edition of Water Wednesdays. That's at 7:55 in CBC Newsnight. Let's look at the local COVID-19 situation now. The number of new COVID-19 cases back over the 100 mark, with 128 people testing positive on Monday. The 53 males and 75 females were identified out of the 1,005 tests conducted by the Best dos Santos Public Health Laboratory. Of the positive cases, 30 individuals were under the age of 18, while 98 were 18 years and older. There were 46 people in isolation facilities, while 1,008 were in home isolation. As at March 14th, the number of deaths from the virus was 326. And thousands of fans will be back at the Mecca for the first test match to be held at Kensington Oval in over 2 years. As the Windies attempt to take a 1-0 lead in the 3-test series against England after the first test match ended in a draw in Antigua, Captain Craig Brathwaite has identified some key areas which the team must improve on. Well, the Windies have named an unchanged side, while Shakib Mahmood, he comes into the England test team making his test debut.
You just gotta, deal with the processes, I think that's important. Also, Bonner led the way, with the batting, last time, and it's, we got 350 in the first innings, so it's trying to repeat that, being consistent, with getting runs, and then obviously the bowling is, just being a little more disciplined in terms of the middle periods, probably a little tighter on the 3 runs and all, but I think creating that pressure will help, to get more wickets, in the middle order.
And live coverage of the match will be on MCTV's ESPN channel. And of course, you can listen to Radio 94.7, the best 24/7, that's CBC Radio. That's my time for your headline news. I'm Shane Seeley. It's back to you, Wendy.
Why, thank you, Shane. And we're going to have a break here. And as I said, get near to your phone lines. It's going to be giveaway time.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's now time to win with Cure Oxygen.
And you heard correctly, it's time to win with Cure Oxygen Water Giveaway. Now, the promotion will see you winning a 12-pack of Cure Water, a polo shirt, and a mask. That's provided that you can get the answer to our question correct. Cure Oxygen Water goes beyond hydration and challenges everything you thought you knew about water. Why? It helps you to discover great health and your limitless potential. Available on the shop smjbarbados.com website and supermarkets nationwide. Cure Oxygen Water. It's time now for this morning's question. Who benefits from Cure? Who benefits from Cure? 228-5562 or 228-5563. Let's see if you know about this oxygenated water. Who benefits from Cure? 228-5562. Now remember, this is the water which goes through your system at a much faster rate than any other water, doing exactly what it needs to do for you. It also helps if you have some sleeping issues. It helps you in terms of your mental stability, agility, gives you energy. Cure water is like no other because it's oxygenated. Now, who benefits from Cure? 228-5562. Good morning.
The adults and the children.
Adults and children. Can we take that one, producer, or no? Okay. Can you elaborate a little bit more about, just the adults and children? How do adults and children benefit from it?
It helps give you energy. If you're telling you're after like, hey, put energy in your body.
Jury?
Pardon?
I'm consulting with my jury here to find out if that's sufficient for your answer. Yes, she said children and adults. Yeah, but we also need to know in terms of who benefits, how they benefit as well.
How they benefit?
How they benefit.
Oh, because it's supposed to give you energy.
Okay, you told me that one before. I was hoping for you to elaborate a little more. So we'll see if we can get the next caller can get a bit closer to home in terms of our answer. 228-5562, 228-5563. Who benefits from Cure? The oxygenated water. Remember, you're winning a 12-pack of Cure, a polo shirt, and a face mask. And these are some lovely designs that you're winning. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Yes.
Everyone benefits from Cure because the bubbles go into attach to the cells that need energizing or rejuvenating.
Okay. Now, does it rejuvenate anybody with any special condition, you think?
Well, I would think it should rejuvenate me. I'm always tired. I'm feeling lethargic, so I believe that it would. I tried it already, actually.
Okay. Well, you do win. So you're gonna give your information to our producer on the line. And this is the full answer to our question this morning. It benefits everyone, but especially those over 50 or suffering from asthma, anemia, advanced diabetes, and other medical conditions. Why? Because it gives you increased oxygenation. Those bubbles within the Cure Oxygen water go through the bloodstream at a much faster rate than regular tap water. So that's why you're getting the Cure with Cure Oxygen water. Remember, give your information to our producer. You are a winner this morning of a lovely polo shirt, a face mask, and of course, a 12-pack of Cure. Cure Oxygen water.
Cure Oxygen. It's not hype, it's science.
And Morning Barbados is back, and it's time for Doc Talk. We have our doctor on the line this morning in Dr. Paul Rouse, the urologist. Now, we're going to be talking about testicular pain this morning, and I'm going to leave a lot of it to you this morning, Dr. Rouse, because these conditions not only look painful on paper, but they're also a bit painful to pronounce. So I'm not biting up my tongue this morning. I'm leaving it to you. Now, let's start off with some of the things which cause testicular pain.
Good morning, Barbados. Thanks again for having me. Over the last few weeks, I've seen a few gentlemen with testicular pain, and my GP colleagues have been sending me some men with testicular pain. And I thought it would be a good topic to address, and also to reassure men and their families that a lot of the times testicular pain is a very benign condition and nothing sinister. Of course, obviously, there are those cases where it's a little bit more serious condition, and therefore we would need to manage appropriately. I'm hoping that you might have the slides available, but I know we had some technical difficulties. So in general, great. So in general, when we look at testicular pain, we can either look at what we call acute testicular pain, or you can have a more chronic testicular pain. And this is one condition that all men should be aware of, is that if you have testicular pain, I think it would be to a certain extent reasonably obvious that if you have acute pain, that you really need to get that investigated and looked at. And one of the first persons to visit would be your general practitioner, or to go to one of the emergency centers if you have acute onset of testicular pain. This is because one of the more, although it's not cancerous, one of the most potential serious conditions is something called testicular torsion. This is where the testicles twist upon itself and compromising the blood supply to the testes. And this, quite frankly, is a surgical emergency. Fortunately, it's a very uncommon emergency, but nonetheless, it's something that once you have it, is quite a painful condition, and you usually would seek medical attention pretty much right away. And usually most of our, I'm sure our very competent doctors will usually make the diagnosis, and usually you might need emergency care for that condition. But there are other conditions such as inflammation of the testes, or acute epididymal orchitis, that's what we call it medically. But again, this is usually dealt with at the general practitioner level or at the Barbados Family Planning. As we know, unfortunately, we still do have sexually transmitted diseases, and this will account for most of the causes of acute epididymal orchitis. And this is usually handled at the general practitioner level or the Barbados Family Planning, usually IV antibiotics and a short course of doxycycline is enough to deal with this condition in the long run.
Then we have chronic pain.
And you also have chronic pain. But I wanted to also discuss one of the more acute conditions again, which is a little bit unusual. So in that very rarely you can have testicular tumors where you can have pain where they present with pain. Although this is very uncommon, we still do see this occasionally where you do get a young gentleman who's got a testicular mass and he presents with acute pain because really these masses very rapidly and he can have bleed inside into the testes. But then,
say mass, you mean like the testicle actually engorges at a much wider rate than its normal look?
Yes, unfortunately with testicular cancer, this is what I was talking about, although it's a very unusual presentation, very rarely you can have a testicular mass or swelling of the testes, which is a tumor cancer, and very unusually, less than, I would say probably 10% of men would actually present with bleeding into the mass and present with acute testicular pain. Testicular cancer generally presents with a hard mass, a painless hard mass, which is a more common presentation. And then you have those chronic conditions that we were alluding to there earlier as well, where you can have a swelling of the testes, or what we call a hydrocele. This is where the fluid around the testes collects around the testes. Or testes are enclosed with a sort of sac, sort of like how my shirt is around my body. And that can balloon up with some fluid, and that's basically what happens with a hydrocele. It can be very small hydrocele and doesn't cause any problems from a cosmetic point of view. You might not necessarily notice, might just notice a filling of the testes, or sometimes it can be quite big. So you can have quite a large swelling of the testicle. And in that case, because you will have some discomfort with it, or you might, cosmetically it looks really, gross, we can deal with that, but that's an entirely benign condition again. We can also there are also lots of little tubules coming from or small fine tubules coming from the testes that allow the sperm to mature, and we call this and eventually form a structure called the epididymis, and then eventually that becomes the vas, which enters the urinary tract. And that structure, the epididymis, that you can have a little cyst arising from the epididymis, what we call epididymal cyst. Again, they can be quite small, nothing to be concerned about, or sometimes they can be quite large. Sometimes some men come complaining that they're growing a third testicle. What's going on here, doc? And in that case, again, if it's uncomfortable, if it's painful, then we can offer to remove.
Did you just say third testicle?
Well, it looks that way in that because they can be quite small, as like a pea size. Sometimes it's just found because, as men should do, they should perform monthly self-examinations, and it might notice a little pea-sized lump. But sometimes it can get large enough to the point where it actually does feel like a second, like they're growing a third testicle. And in those cases, from a cosmetic point of view, we can remove that for them. Sometimes even under local anesthetic in the office, and no need for any major surgery. And again, it's a very benign condition. Okay. Some of the more problematic conditions you can have in terms of chronic testicular pain or discomfort is where the blood vessels from the testes, this is something called what we call varicoceles. So within, associated with the testes, you have a testicular artery, but you also have a network of veins, which we call the pampiniform plexus. It's sort of like varicose veins, but affecting the testes, and we call that a varicocele. And that, unfortunately, leads to buildup of blood, and this is basically becomes deoxygenated blood, or blood that all the nutrients and everything has eventually gets used up, and hence it causes chronic testicular pain or discomfort. And this is one of the more common conditions that we might need to intervene for in terms of dealing with that condition, so that men can get rid of their chronic testicular pain. Again, although it's a benign condition, it can have potential impact on men's fertility and issues from that point of view, and therefore sometimes we would need to intervene from a surgical point of view. But fortunately, although it is a fairly common condition, it's something that can be dealt with. There's several different ways. I could either tie those vessels off, which is what we call a varicocelectomy, or sometimes, depending on how aggressive we need to be, I can also get my interventional colleagues involved to do what we call embolization of these vessels. So these are some
Are there any
condition
signs?
that's around.
Are there
So
any
I really
signs?
wanted then to get on to see, if we go to the next slide, we can see. So I'll just show you some of these conditions. I think we've missed the first one, which is the acute epididymal bronchitis, but we've gone on to, I don't like to get into the graphic ones, namely the testicular tumor there, but that ultrasound was trying to show you how you can have a mass inside the testicles. So usually with a testicular mass, you will see, you might feel a lump or mass arising from the testes. And in that case, usually again, you would start with your GP. You feel a lump in your testes. Please see your GP initially. They will assess you. They will do an examination, and if they're concerned, they will go on to do an ultrasound scan, and that's really where we usually would start. And if that does confirm a testicular mass, then they usually refer over to the urologist for us to then deal with that. And just the ultrasound, just showing how that looks on an ultrasound scan and how it's readily diagnosed, reasonably straightforward, and can be dealt with pretty urgently, because unfortunately testicular cancer, although it's one of the most curable cancers, not wishing to have a cancer, but if it's one that is not too bad to have in terms of being able to be dealt with quite readily, that is a testicular tumor or testicular cancer can really be dealt with quite expeditiously. Some of the other lumps, I'm not sure if you have any more of the slides, just to show you what it's all about, is I think this one you saw, there was just a testicular cyst. But while we have this one up on the screen, this is another condition. I've seen quite a bit of this recently. A lot of men have ultrasound as a start to look for testicular pain. And we see these little calcifications within the testicles, something called testicular microlithiasis. I just want to, a lot of men always get a little bit concerned about this because they hear calcification, they automatically think stones, but within the testes, and all it is really calcification of the secretions. But we've got good data, good studies that have shown that this is a totally benign condition and nothing sinister in most cases in terms of the calcification within the testes. So you can see there are several different conditions that can present acutely with acute testicular pain, or more chronically, if the pain has been going for a few weeks, we then call it chronic testicular pain. That are, in the vast majority of cases, I just want to reassure men that it's usually benign and nothing to be concerned about. But then you do have the odd occasion where it's something a little bit more sinister, like a testicular mass, testicular cancer, and therefore needs to be dealt with more urgently. I put this slide in here because this is one of the uncommon ways of how men can present with testicular pain. This is so whenever we have a gentleman with testicular pain and we can't find an obvious cause within the testes, we then have to look elsewhere. And one of the things is we might need to do an ultrasound and then also sometimes a CT scan of the abdomen to see if there's other conditions that's causing what we call referred pain into the testes. And this is very unusual. Maybe you see 1 or 2 cases a year. I've seen it ever so often, where you have a patient with in this case, a man with a stone in the distal part of the tube going from the kidney to the bladder, the ureter, and very rarely can present rather than with pain in the abdomen, pain radiating into the testicle. That's a very unusual presentation of a ureteric or kidney stone.
Okay.
So that's why sometimes we need to think outside the box.
Right.
It's not always only the testes.
But what I'm happy to hear is that most of these conditions are very treatable and are benign, because usually when you tend to have pain in that area, you start to automatically think cancer. And it was interesting that you said the swelling for cancer doesn't actually cause pain.
Yes, the vast majority of testicular cancers present as a painless swelling of the testes. Very rarely, I think the literature would say probably about 10 to 15% of men would present with a painful swelling of the testes as the initial presentation of testicular cancer. So that's why it's so important that men get in the habit on a monthly basis of self-examination, so that if because you know your testicles, you know your body, if you feel any lumps, any mass, see your GP. As I said, the vast majority of cases are usually benign and nothing to be concerned about, but we do have the odd occasion when it is something a little bit more serious. And once we catch them early, a lot of the times just removal of that mass. Sometimes we can do what we call testes sparing surgery. Very unusual, but sometimes we can. But and unfortunately, sometimes we may have to lose the testicle. But once we catch it early, it is a very, very readily treatable condition.
Okay, well, we want to thank you so much for joining us here for Dr. Paul Rouse, urologist, and telling us all about these various types of testicular pain. And men, get yourselves checked. He said get in the habit of doing it monthly. So let's hope that they heed your advice, Dr. Rouse. Great having you. Have a brilliant day.
And thank you again. Good morning, Barbados.
That's been our doc on the line, Dr. Paul Rouse. Coming up after the commercial break, we will be having our final segment of Managing Managerial Challenges, the book by Joan Underwood. And we'll be seeing exactly what we needed to know and if we found out all that we need to do when it comes to time management. We'll be back after the break.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
And I say a bright and cheery, sunshiny morning to our author this morning, Joan Underwood, the coach, talent development specialist, master trainer, and change practitioner. Good morning to you, Joan.
Good morning, Wendy. A little bittersweet morning to me.
Oh dear, I hope it's not too bad.
Well, because it's the last segment, so I'm going to miss my usual meetings with you guys on a Wednesday morning.
Oh dear, I am sure that something else is going to happen and you're going to be telling more people about how to manage these challenges. Less us, more workshops for you, Joan. Think about it that way.
Nice reframe.
Good. Now let's get to it. Banishing the myth of time management, our final chapter. One of the first things is knowing the importance of setting your priorities in terms of managing that time. Walk us through.
All right. I mean, it's such a common complaint. Oh, I don't have enough time. There's so much to do. And when you check on it, a lot of time is spent doing things which don't align with our purpose, which don't add value to us, but we're doing them simply because we haven't taken the time, invested the energy in listing, identifying our priorities and aligning our actions with our priorities.
Okay.
Another thing that's a thief of time is our inability or reluctance to say no. So our agenda gets taken up with requests from other people. And so after we spend all the time doing things that other people have asked us to do, we're then scampering to fit in the things that we need to do. So my recommendation is that instead of focusing on managing time, let's on managing our priorities and the choices we make about what we do with the time that is available to us.
Okay, now in trying to use that time that's available, you also pointed out in the text that it's important to differentiate between what is important and what is urgent.
Absolutely. Because we don't do a very good job in terms of prioritizing, we end up, being amateur firefighters. And what does that mean? We're always putting out fires. We're always dealing with the urgent because we didn't proactively deal with the important. So I give the example of putting batteries in your smoke detector. Now, that's not a huge task. It doesn't take any time to do it, but if we don't make it a priority and there's a fire, you see that your response then moves from important to being urgent to combat the ill effect that resulted from your not proactively dealing with important tasks. Okay. So my recommendation, deal with the important things first so that they don't become urgent things. And then when you have the space and time left over, then you deal with the other things that are not as important.
Okay, now you said there's an art to saying no. But if someone is a multitasker and they're accustomed taking on their sisters, their brothers, their uncles, their cousins, it's going to be more than difficult to say no, especially if it seems as though what you're saying no to might be an urgent cause for that other individual.
Okay, so first off, let's debunk a myth. You see this multitasking thing, and I say this as a self-avowed recovered multitasker. Okay, so I'm a bit in remission, but sometimes I relapse. Neuroscience has proven that there's no such thing as multitasking. The human brain does not have the ability to process the multiple tasks, cognitive tasks. Okay, so of course we can walk and chew gum, but we don't have the ability to process multiple cognitive tasks at the same time. What we do have the ability to do, and what we're actually doing when we say we're multitasking, is switching rapidly between different tasks. Okay, and you can become, very quick at it. Here's the thing, there's a cost, because every time you switch, it takes your brain time to get back to the level of performance that it was at before you switched. So you lose a little bit every time you switch. So we need to be real with ourselves, and when we're multitasking, to recognize we're not doing multiple things at the same time. We're switching between things, and as a result, we're not doing either one at a maximum or optimal level. So that's the first thing. All right. And sometimes our reluctance or inability to say no is caught up in ego, because we like to think that people need us, that we're practically indispensable. If I don't do it, who else is going to do it, and who can do it as well as I can? So ego gets caught up in that, and so we try to do everything and to be everything to everyone. We're not fooling other people, and we're most definitely not fooling ourselves. It takes a toll on our health and well-being, because if we're constantly burning the candle at both ends, it's just a matter of time, and you had a health segment before this, so it's a matter of time before that to have an adverse impact on our health. Okay. So it's a lose-lose-lose proposition.
I see. Now then, you're also telling us that God rested, and so should you. Me now, I personally don't like a lot of rest. I get very restless sleeping, and I think I need to get up and do something else.
All right. You see, Wendy, you're young enough now that we can't see the physical toll that it's taking on you. But I guarantee you, if you don't change that habit, it will indeed take a toll. The Mayo Clinic tells us that we need between 7 and 9 hours of sleep nightly in order to perform optimally. So you may be thinking, oh, I'm doing well. Here's the thing, though. You could be doing better if you gave yourself adequate rest. So, I mean, we have a culture where it's almost a badge of honor to say how little sleep you're operating on, or how busy you are, right? But I mean, that's a short-term, romanticization of something that is actually quite destructive.
Okay, so it's good to know that. I do have a cousin who's a sleep specialist that says that in order for your cognitive workings to be at their optimum, you need that sleep, because the brain needs to, replace all that it would have lost.
Exactly.
When we're moving about. Now, in terms of the book, Joan, since this is going to be our last going down, are they available at any other places other than Days and Amazon now? Where else can I find you?
Okay, so my online presence, I have my website, which is utdsinc.com. Or you can just hit me up on any of my social media accounts. I'm easy to find. Just search for my name, Joan Underwood, on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram are my primary platforms. And yeah, it's available. You mentioned Amazon. You can also find the book on Goodreads. And it's available on multiple platforms online where you can purchase books. So it's accessible. Right? And I'd love to hear from persons. Just yesterday, I was at a workshop, as you mentioned before, and I sold 3 books during the course of the workshop. A gentleman came up to me. He heard my voice, and he says, I know that voice. You're on Morning Barbados. And he said, my wife and I, we watch the program. We find it so helpful. So I said, well, you need a book to go with it, because we're about to wrap the program.
Yes.
So
you see, your first aid kit really has helped to do some healing and some bandaging and some patching. Joan, it has been fun having you for those few weeks dealing with the manager's first aid kit, a practical guide to remedy the 3 most common managerial challenges. And thanks for pointing out some of those challenges to us as well, because there's some things that weren't so obvious, and now we found a mechanism with which to deal with them. Joan, do have a wonderful morning.
Thank you so very much for everything.
You're most welcomed. Here at Morning Barbados, we do our best to highlight those writers as well as needs that some of you out there may have. And I'm sure Joan has helped you all to overcome some in your managerial roles. Morning Barbados will be back in a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
And welcome back. It's time to find out how we'll be aging and thriving in BIM. We have with us Dr. Lana Husbands, the gerontologist, and this morning she's joined by Melanie Buga, an occupational therapist. And these ladies are here to tell us how to make adjustments in the home to accommodate elderly individuals. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, Wendy. How are you?
I am well. I am well. Now, we are talking, Dr. Husbands, about identifying some risk factors for falls because we know old bones don't heal so easily. So tell us how we can identify those factors.
Well, that's a great question. So I'm so happy to welcome Miss Buga, who is the occupational therapist, because when we get older, well, as we're growing up, you may have a design in your mind for the house that you want, but you may not have a design in your mind going 30, 40, 50 years. And persons may feel well, they may even feel well at 50, 60, but as the body ages, as you said, and you may have a risk. We spoke sometime about COVID and how it's been increasing the risk of falls and fractures. As you said, old bones, they're more frail, they're easily broken, not easily mended. And so the house, your home, you wouldn't think it's could be the most dangerous place for you. So the question is, what adjustments can you make now before you start to feel frail so that you will lessen your risk of falls? And that's what Ms. Buga is here to tell us.
Okay. Now, let's get to the presentation with you, Ms. Buga. How do I identify my risk factors and so on?
Right. So there are three main risk factors that we look at. We look at the physical risk factors, so those pertaining to the individual themselves, and those things would involve things like medication use and the timing of those, as well as behavioral factors, so things that we need to do, that we know that we need to do to limit our risk of falling. Those of us who use walking aids, making sure that we are using our walkers and canes and those types of things. And then there are the environmental factors, which we will focus on during this talk, pertaining to mainly our home environment. For the purposes of this presentation, we will be focusing on the bathroom and the bedroom because those are the areas of the house that people tend to have more falls.
Okay. So why those areas? Because the surfaces are slippery generally?
Generally, yes, because of the presence of water, and usually in the bedroom where people are accustomed being in that space, there tends to be rugs and clutter, sometimes clothes. So those areas are the most prevalent areas for the falls.
Okay. Now, as an occupational therapist, what would be your role in helping to prevent elderly members within our households from falling? What advice can you give us to help them out?
Okay, so as OTs, we focus on the individual factors first. So their abilities, their special abilities or inabilities, and how we can adapt those. So where we know that a person's strength or function will not change intrinsically, we prescribe assistive devices to maintain safety and independence with their activities of daily living. So we do things as simple as prescriptions for tools and utensils to be used in the kitchen, and as complex as adapting a vehicle. And in the image I have here, you see a lady with a walker and she's sitting on a shower chair. So we prescribe and we fit those because they're not a one-size-fits-all situation, and they have to be tailored to the individual's needs and their unique function.
Okay, and they also have to be modified to make sure that safety is even more paramount within the home and within the environment in which they function. Now, if we could focus now on the bathroom and some of the things maybe we who aren't aged in the household need to avoid doing so that our elderly members don't risk falling?
Right. So the bathroom, I have put an image of a typical shower toilet setting in the household. So there usually is a ledge by the shower. Most people have a shower curtain, and usually a mat on the outside of the shower. So I have identified some hazards in these settings. So the mat outside of the shower, well, it prevents water from going throughout the bathroom. It actually is a fall risk. And so we encourage everybody, not just elderly population, to use non-skid mats in those settings to reduce the risk of falls there. We also can think about things like, if you look at the toilet setting, the mat around the toilet actually is not necessary, and that actually causes a lot of trips and slips in the bathroom. And so again, replacing that with a non-skid mat is a good idea. We can also go to things like safety bars in the showers and in tubs if we have a tub. Tubs tend to cause a little bit more falls than showers, as you would anticipate, because the surface is a little bit more slippery and you need a bit more strength to get over the tub. And so persons who have elderly members in their household who have tubs in place, we usually recommend the use of bath transfer bench. Half of the chair is outside of the bench and half is inside, and so a person can easily transfer from on the outside of the tub and inside to have a shower. We also look at raising the height of the toilet. So the general height of a toilet is about 16 inches, which is not very high. For the average population, I myself struggle sometimes, particularly after the gym. So we recommend the use of raised toilet seats or a commode, as those have handrails that assist with getting on and off of the toilet. We also look at the use of other types of equipment, not necessarily that has to be fixed to the bathroom, but that a person can use to improve their function and safety in that space. So if we look at the long handle sponge that would prevent a person from tipping over and falling, for example, if they're washing their feet, we can also think about using handheld shower attachments so that people can use those while they're in a seated position. And it also assists with washing your hair and washing your back so that you don't have to do too many, don't have to use too many movements and therefore increase your risk of falling. They also have the non-skid stickers as well, which are really useful if we don't want to use the suction mats aesthetically.
Okay.
So
now, what about
the
bedroom now? That's also an area of concern.
Right. So this image identifies some areas of hazard in the bedroom. There are more, but for this setting, we usually encourage the use of storage bins or containers and keep things out of the walkway, maximize walking space, and also the placement of the bed is very, very important. You want to have a clear space without a rug or a mat in place, because the rugs cause a tripping hazard. We also encourage, particularly at night, the use of night lights for those who have visual impairments to ensure that they are able to see where they're going, because that is another risk factor for falling, not being able to see where you're going. And you also have to ensure that your sheets and your beddings do not hang on the floor, and clear all laundry baskets that may be on the floor. They may seem trivial, but picking up loose clothing can avoid accidents.
All righty. If we can now summarize some of the ways in which we can seek to help our elderly members reduce the risk of falling.
Okay, so I always encourage my patients to talk to their doctors and pharmacists about medications that may cause vertigo or fatigue, and see if we can tailor the timing of those to minimize the risk of falling while we're at home, particularly at home alone. Get your eyes examined regularly, maintain a healthy sleep schedule, because when we're tired, we know we tend to make we tend to make a little bit more mistakes. Stay active and exercise regularly to maintain joint integrity and muscle strength. Stay hydrated, as dehydration causes fatigue. And find alternatives for potentially risky behaviors, and those will be done in conjunction with your physio or occupational therapist. And as we have just done, identify and eliminate all falling hazards in the home.
Okay, I want to thank you so much, Melanie. And before we go, Dr. Lana, what's your one takeaway for us to help our family members reduce their risk of falling?
I'd say, well, I have maybe two small takeaways. One, remove the rugs. Persons love their rugs, but they're a danger. And secondly, maintenance. So all the especially in the bathroom, remember that that's a wet area, so it doesn't matter whether you have put everything in place, it must remain well maintained, make sure that all the attachments are on the wall, get the person assessed to make sure that when they hold on to it, everything is stable,
sturdy, yes.
And dry.
Okay.
Yes, stable and dry, and in the house, no clothes and rugs on the floor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lana Husbands and Melanie Bouguet, for joining us this morning to talk all about how we're aging and thriving. Ladies, do have a great morning.
And you too, thank you.
Now it's time now to meet a personality. Cricket is on, and lots of people are here to be a part of it. And one of those people is Rushane Rushcam Campbell. He's a lawyer and also a content creator from Kingston, Jamaica. Rushane, these are at two different ends of the spectrum, because we all know lawyers don't really advertise, you know, people think they don't give away a lot of free information, you gotta pay for it, but you're in the courts and you're also on social media. Tell me about that mix.
Hi, Wendy. So good morning, Barbados. No, to be honest, I'm not actively practicing right now because of the pull for content creation and creativity and that space. And so the duality of it is not so much of an issue, I guess, because it's more so that I'm doing creation and just using like knowledge that I've had in law to sort of help me with contracts and things like that. So I'm not actively practicing right now. Yes.
Okay. Now you're going to be here joining a number of other media personalities, and you're being hosted by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. for our test match, West Indies versus England. How did that come about?
You know, Barbados is like a second home to me because I came here for law school, and so I've been visiting and sort of like planting seeds every now and then. And I think that based on my content and the fact that it is a second home to me, the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc., they were just like, you know what, it would be a good idea. And I think also in terms of promoting regional integration at this point, now that the world is sort of opening up, it was a great idea for me to sort of come over and be a part of this, you know, match and all the activities that will stem from it.
What does your content focus on mainly? What type of social media influencer are you?
You know, I like to think of myself as pushing lifestyle as well as thoughtful millennial spaces, and so that's the sort of twofold prong approach that I take. So I like fashion, I like lifestyle, going to the beach, going for dinners, all of those different things, which of course I will explore in Barbados. But I also think that it's important to share with youth and share conversations that everyone is unwilling to have. Family conversations, conversations around career, conversations around money, and so on. So I think I'm a millennial voice in a lifestyle space.
Yes. I like that. Now,
yes.
In terms of your following, what are you at now in terms of your numbers? How are you tracking?
My biggest following is on YouTube. I have close to 100,000 subscribers, 80,000 on the way. and I have about 70,000 followers on Instagram, picking up on TikTok as well as Twitter. So I think I'm like a multi hyphenate, like I'm everywhere with the social media, but my main platform is YouTube and Instagram. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, there I am.
Yes, there you are. Now, your visit to Barbados, you said you're going to be looking to highlight some of the activities that you're going to be doing here, and integration is something which you hold dear. How do you feel about the cross cultures within the Caribbean and how we can use them to boost each other, as opposed to think that a Jamaican space should be competing with a Bajan space?
Okay, so you know what? I think that regional integration is deeply embedded in everything that we do, and we don't recognize how important it is. So things like education and the University of the West Indies, and how students are able to travel across the Caribbean to learn more, and to not only learn about like their literal curriculum, but learn about different cultures. I think it's important for us to recognize that because of how small we are individually, or growth and or sort of what I'd say is amalgamation, us together gives us a stronger voice. Because
Okay.
even in the world space, like nobody wants to hear from little old one country, but if we're
It is
together, we're
very true.
stronger.
It is very true.
It's
Together
important.
we are mighty. Now, it was good knowing, what are you doing while you're going to be on island? What can I look out for on TikTok?
Everything, Wendy. We're gonna be at cricket, which I'm most excited for. Rum tour, catamaran, all over hiking. I'm gonna go to Sheffield. I have to, I'm all over.
There are no wingdings on right now, just letting you know that.
I hear
But
they
you
have tenders.
they do have tenders, and you should also try their new ice cream.
Okay, I will.
Yes, you should try that. So, Rashkam, Rujane, it's great to have you in BIM. You know the place, so you're no stranger. You'll find yourself in Bridgetown too, I'm sure. And we're looking forward to seeing what you will be posting to help BTMI push Barbados further and help spread that cause of integration. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
Enjoy cricket as well.
Thank you, and I hope to see you there, Wendy, on Saturday.
Legends. Find me at Legends.
Okay.
That's been Morning Barbados. We want to thank our last guest who's in with the BTMI and a number of other personalities to make cricket and Barbados's name shine brightly. So, Morning Barbados, I'm Wendy Burke. Have a brilliant Wednesday.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning.